So here's an argument I never want to hear again. This argument states that if God is omnipotent, we do not have free will, because knowing the future, everything is known, therefore our actions are determined, and we don't actually have free will. Maybe if you're a smart guy, you see where this is going, and hopefully you are. But probably you're not, and that's why you're watching this video, to be educated. Educated by my supreme intellect. Fifth Watcher, pillar of knowledge and wisdom. So here's where this first starts to fall apart. You point out that knowing the future does not negate the process of choice and free will in the decisions that individuals make. Here's a good example. If I traveled into the future and I spied on you, and I wrote down everything you did for a week, and then I went back in time and I waited for that week to pass, and I gave you a letter containing everything you did, and everything you did was 100% spot on exactly what I wrote down. Or, well, actually, I suppose I would give you the letter before and tell you to open it a week later, but whatever. That does not mean that you did not invoke your choice and free will upon making every single one of those decisions. Just because I was witness to them does not mean that you don't have free will. Now, what I really like about that example is that I'm not God, and I am not anywhere nearly as powerful as universe-creating God. And if I can witness and observe your actions simply by being in a different place in time, then that shows that having knowledge of the future is completely irrelevant to your decision-making, since I am not an all-knowing, omnipotent being. I only need to be in the right place at the right time in a different time period than you are, or whatever. Now, if you're a stubborn atheist, and you are, you will respond that if God knows everything in the future, then it's like we don't have free will, because every future action is known and cannot be changed, therefore we do not have free will. But I will politely point out that this probably qualifies as something like a false analogy, which is a logical fallacy. This is so because the argument is depending on showing that God knowing the future is similar enough to not having free will to say they're the same, which is the heart and soul of this logical fallacy which you have committed. When the truth is, as I have explained, they are not the same, because knowing does not pre-negate your process of making a choice. Besides, with as little as we can know about God, why assume that He is determining our choices for us? If I said, hey guy, can I punch you in the face? I know that 99% of you are going to say, no, I do not want to be punched in the face. And the other 1% of you are going to go, hell yeah, man, bring it. And then I know that once I punch you in the face after that, that 99% of those people are going to cry like children, and 1% of those people are going to be masochists and be like, yeah, punch me in the face again, punch it. Punch my face until it bleeds. That does not mean that I had any influence over your personal decision-making process, even if it was predictable. I personally think that if God knows the future, and that is an assumption, if He knows the future, He knows it in the same way that I know if I drop this coin that it will fall, because I understand that gravity will pull it down towards the earth. I think in a very similar fashion, God knows that humanity will play out in a particular way. That doesn't mean He's influencing or interjecting in our decision-making process. It simply means He understands how it works. How we work, unlike with small objects and gravity, includes the capacity for free will, and here's why I think that is. In order for free will to be effective and have a real impact on society, we only need a little free will, because then if we can employ free will even just some of the time, then we effectively have free will by the fact that we can determine the future of events using said free will, even if it be just some of the time. So even while the arguments are strong that there are forces in our brain and forces in nature which cause us to make particular decisions, hormones that cause us to feel certain ways and ways of being raised which make us turn out to be a certain way, there is just this undeniable portion of the human psyche which is capable of making choices. Now, the reason this is true is because determinists, when they make these kinds of arguments, they are resorting to a sort of a gap in evidence. There's a gap in evidence which they try to fill with things that they don't know actually happen, when the truth is the supposed forces that control us cannot all be accounted for, so they're only assuming that they're there, which is a leap in logic that you cannot rightfully make because you really just don't know what's going on there. You're just assuming there's a bunch of little things that determine the outcome, but you don't know that. Even though that the existence of free will in the first place is a different argument than if God controls said free will or not, I think that this argument on the subject of free will versus determinism forces us to at least be agnostic about if there is free will or not. But again, there's a separate argument. I just know that you guys are going to want to argue about that too. So at the end of the day, knowing is not controlling, because if I can go to the future and record your actions, that does not mean that I control your every move. Although, that would be wonderful.